violence than we were 24 hours ago. Obviously, we are in the middle of, in New Zealand, in the middle of Cyclone Gabrielle, and so it's been a bit bumpy and a bit windy, but we're coming out the other side of it. And I was talking with some people today about building a business, and they were like, oh, well, so and so says I should be meeting this benchmark in terms of growth, or this person thinks I should be growing this much per month in my revenue in my business. And I hear that because when I was younger, when I first got started out in business, that was how I got told I should look at my business. So how many extra guests were we taking on the boat, and how much extra money was that bringing in, and how many more employees did we need to have, and should we build another boat? And it was always about growth and how did the business get bigger and better on all those metrics that people looking from the outside in can see. And so I did that for a long time. And then I figured out that it really didn't serve me, and it really didn't serve the life that I wanted to live. And so the reason I really wanted to talk to you about this coming back today is because last week I was very quiet on here, and I was very quiet on here because on Wednesday I hopped in the car with Scarlett and we drove down to Waipu Cove, and I spent 3 days on school camp with her and the rest of the intermediate and senior school from her school. And 25-year-old Sarah would not have written in her business plan or her business model, must be able to go on school camp with lots of tween and teenage children. Like, that was not, 25-year-old Sarah would not have said that was a life goal right then and there. And yet 41-year-old Sarah thinks that's pretty friggin' epic. And we had a great time. I don't spend a lot of, you all know, I spend very little time in the kitchen at home. And somehow I ended up in the kitchen at camp, those poor children. But nobody died of food poisoning, so that's a good sign. And we had a fabulous time. We did, the kids did rock climbing and archery and surfing and paddleboarding and surf lifesaving, all sorts of different things, and I got to get in there and do some of that as well as hang out with lots of the other parents at the school, which is always nice, and get to know the teachers a bit better as Scarlett transitions from primary into intermediate here in her at her school. And then after that we got in the car and we drove to Auckland and we hung out with my sister for a night, and then a second night hanging out with her and Scarlett, and we went to the Ed Sheeran concert. And so why do I tell you all this? Well, I tell you all this because none of those things, or maybe the Ed Sheeran concert, but just for me, not for me and my daughter, would have been on my list at 25. Was he even around? Like, I feel like he might not have even been born then. Does that make me really old? But it would not have been on my agenda. Maybe going to a concert would have been. And so now I get really clear on what are the things that make my life full of things that give me great pleasure. And I literally had multiple moments over those 5 days of, wow, look at the life. Look at the life we have. Look at the life we've built. And my business supports that. Because nothing fell apart while I was away last week. My clients had one experience of me coaching from a bunk room because that was the only quiet private space I could find for them on school camp Sarah edition. And other than that, nothing fell apart, right? So how do we build businesses that serve us? You know, our tourism business still happened. They didn't need to call me. Yes, there was a cyclone coming. They also didn't need to call me. There was things that everybody knew what they needed to do to make sure everything was going to be okay coming forward into the business week that was this week. That it's not got a lot happening in it because of cyclones. So how do you build a business? And so you have to get really clear about, what do you want? What do you really, really want? And for most of us, that's going to start in a place of what you don't want. You're going to say things like, I don't want to work so much. Cool. So if you don't want to work so much, what does the opposite of that look like? Do you want to work a 4-hour work week? Do you want to work a 2-day work week? Do you want to work 20 hours a week? What does it look like? Because anything's possible. Anything's possible. You just have to figure out what it is you want. Oh no, Sarah, I don't want to just work 4 hours. I would feel really lazy. And what else would I do if I know? Cool, that's totally cool if you don't want to do 4 hours. But what do you want? And for most of us, it's much, much easier to start from a place of all the things that you don't want. So to figure this out, to start building a business that you really love, to start building a business that serves you rather than you doing all the work for it all the time, to make it bigger and better so it looks the way that it should from the outside in, you want to start with, what do I want? And you're going to start with the list of things you don't want. And then what is the complete opposite of those things? And then somewhere in between there is what looks like great looks like for you, what success looks like for you in your life and your business. And start working towards that. And don't expect that it's going to show up tomorrow or next week or next month or even probably for most of us next year. It's taken me 6, probably 7 pretty consistent years of working towards the ideal week that I live now. Working towards a life where I'm like on school camp and going on off to Ed Sheeran with Scarlett, and in a couple of weeks' time spending 4 nights at a music festival. Those things were not possible for me straight away. And over time, I worked at it bit by bit by bit. And it wasn't about the big, massive changes that I made. It was about the small, consistent changes that we made that got us to this point. So you can't do any of that. You can't make any changes in the right direction until you know what direction you are. And so I talked the other day about getting lost because you don't know where you're at. You also can't start making the right choices about which direction to go if you don't know where you want to go. And so this is the second part of that. You have to get really clear on where do you want to go. And I think it's really important that that comes from in here. That comes from what matters to you, the people that matter to you, the experiences that matter to you, the memories that you want to create, the moments you want to create. Like Scarlett's eyes lit up like huge big eyes. Everywhere she went, she had these massive eyes of delight. Seeing a stadium with 40,000 people in it, for a kid from a town of 1,200 people, that was epic. And our friend got us very amazing tickets, so double bonus, she was very close to the stage. Those moments I will hold dear to my heart for a long, long time. And that's what my business gives me. My business gives me the freedom to be able to work with you guys and talk to you guys and serve you guys and go up to Kaitaia, now delayed because we have a storm on, but go up to Kaitaia and work with people to build resilience for themselves as the business owner and into the business. What do you want out of that? Because you'll have something that lights your fire in the same way that lights my fire, and you will want to go and do that. So what do you want? Figure it out, and then you can start making small steps towards it, and eventually it shows up. It's not a magic wand. There's work to do. I had a new client come on board the other day, and she says, I know this isn't a magic pill. I know there's going to be work to do. I know this is going to be a process. And it absolutely is a process. And you'd want to start the process now, because every day that you leave that process is digging the hole a little deeper, so making the problem a bigger problem to solve. And 2, making that future date where you're going to get what you want further and further away. So hit me up with one thing that you don't want anymore in your life in the comments below. And let's figure out what the flip side of that, what's the opposite of that.